I think enough time has finally passed that I can actually go ahead and make this video now, what with the epic raid having concluded much less eventfully than its non-epic contest counterpart, which I have not participated in either of those things at the time of writing this. I mean, I played Desert Perpetual, but only a little bit. This isn't really meant to be a comprehensive list of everything that's good or bad about the game. More so kind of my opinion on where we happen to be in the it's so over, we're so back cycle that this game tends to find itself in. Ash and Iron is now out with a grand total of one, count it, one new activity. I mean, we also unlocked the rest of the seasonal artifact, but, you know, I don't really give it that much credit, to be honest. Ash and Iron promised us a return to the Plague Lands and a continuation of the Conductor storyline, which it does technically do, but, well, to nobody's shock, it was underwhelming. The story consists of a single mission that you are not auto-loaded into, meaning you could entirely miss it, and ambient dialogue from the new activity, and that's it. The story goes, or at least the story that I'm aware of, Bife, please correct me if I'm wrong. The story goes that the Conductor, or at the very least her Coral Vex, have invaded the tower in an apparent smash and grab, and we gotta go put a stop to it because I guess everyone else just decided to clock out for the night, and somehow in what should be the most defensible position in the last safe city on Earth, the Vex just walked in with someone else's badge. The suspension of disbelief aside, we run around the tower in first person with a gun, which was a very trippy experience, destroying a bunch of Vex cubes for some unstated reason, and then we learn that the Conductor has also taken a subset of the Red Legion from an alternate timeline with literally no other explanation than that, but it's not even the most egregious thing here. We kill a big harpy, and somewhere in all of there, we learn that the Conductor is after Golden Age Warmind tech, and then we're told to go play Reclaim. That's it. That is the entirety of the story for Ash and Iron. And I've got to be honest. I thought the story team was going to cook after what we got with Edge of Fate, and they clearly did not. I am supposed to believe that the Conductor, who at this point has just been more of a minor antagonist, I guess she did kill 3, but I'm going off topic. Regardless, I'm just supposed to believe she was able to plop a bunch of Vex, not just into the last city, but the tower itself. The excuse that we're given is that the only people are around are Night Watch, but I'm gonna be honest, I don't buy that. You're telling me we didn't hire enough people to defend the command center of the last city on Earth? And even if we somehow didn't do that, you really mean to tell me that not a single other Guardian just happened to be in the tower at this moment? Even if, for some reason, Nightwatch had 0 Guardians on it, which I don't believe for a second, I find it hard to believe that there aren't at least a few Night Owls who would just happen to be in the tower for any number of reasons. Maybe they just couldn't fall asleep and decided to go for a walk or something. And you wanna know what the worst part is? Nothing changes in the tower. Okay, this is the kind of hook that could be really interesting for a story. Why was no one around? What's gonna happen as a consequence of this? Are people gonna lose faith in the Vanguard because they can't keep their own tower safe? And none of those options are explored. The last time the tower itself was invaded, at least as far as I can remember, was the Red War. And that required the full military might of the Red Legion and some help from the Nine. You know, the fourth dimensional beings that are tied to the orbits of our planets. And also the sun, I guess. Like, I'm just supposed to think that that isn't that big of a deal. So, yeah, long story short, I think the story falls a little flat, but I'm gonna move on so that this video isn't half an hour long. Now that we've got our hook, and our finisher, really, for the story, we can talk about Reclaim, which is the thing that we were told to go do as part of the story. Reclaim does bring us back to the Plague Lands for the first time since Rise of Iron, and if you'll allow me to nerd out for just a little bit, can I say how good of a job the environment team did here? I know that there were initially a lot of complaints about the fact that there was no color in the Plague Lands anymore like there was before, and my response to that is, okay? Like, isn't that kind of the point, that Siva was this massive plague which is now dormant, and we're now witnessing the aftermath of it, which, like, yeah, it kind of makes sense that things aren't going to be very vibrant. Anyway, now that I'm done ranting about the environment, we can talk about the gameplay, which has pretty often been described as overthrow, but in the Plaguelands this time, and honestly, that's kind of the best description I can think of to describe it. I understand that there are only so many ways to make shooting enemies in space interesting, especially in a match-made environment where things are forced to be fairly simplistic. But I think people would have preferred something just a little different. I know the objectives themselves have changed, but the taskbar is literally just one-to-one ripped from Overthrow. I know a lot of people thought the Plaguelands were going to return as a full-on patrol space instead of just being part of the activity. I kind of was in that camp too, but I guess it does somewhat make sense since there's not really a good reason to have a patrol space unless there's actually stuff to do there. Obviously, I would have liked for Bungie to have added the Plaguelands as a patrol space and had a thing to do in there. But, you know, wishful thinking, I guess. Reclaim also seems to be the new meta, so to speak, for power leveling, since you can just blaze through it in like 7 to 10 minutes to do with that information what you will. I also can't help but feel like... Okay, you know what? No, I'm not done with the story complaints. We have Siva, a force that people would go absolutely berserk for a story about, and we know this. But the problem is that Siva's dormant and can only operate if it's got a strong enough mind to control it. If only there were some character at the center of a current arc that has some kind of artifact that would enable her to command other entities that might want to claim that power for herself. Oh. Right. Look, I get it. Siva is dead and done and dusted, and that's fine. I'm aware of that, I understand it, and I don't have any problems leaving Siva in the past. But the more I think about it, the more it would have been a really big missed opportunity. Especially since Siva itself has kind of been power crept by Quicksilver on Neomuna already. There's a very interesting dynamic there, and it's just not explored at all. Speaking of missing things, the seasonal model. Yeah, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I really miss the seasonal model right now. We no longer have seasons or episodes, but if I'm being honest, episodes are basically just big seasons, so if I'm talking about a season, assume that episodes are also included in there. The idea behind the death of the seasonal model was that we wouldn't be limited in the amount of content that you can go through at any given time. More bluntly, less frequent content, but more substantial drops of content when we did get them. That, however, has not really been fulfilled. We got the less frequent content drops, but not nearly the same volume of it. Yes, I understand the portal is technically new content, but is it really? It's mostly old content with the ability to add modifiers, which doesn't really qualify as new content for me. Look, the seasonal model had its problems. I'm not saying it was perfect, or even that it was good. But at least there was stuff in it to criticize. I just don't really have that much to say about what we got with Ash and Iron, because we really didn't get that much. I'm not going to keep talking about the new seasonal model and the new pacing of content, because technically we're really only halfway through the year of content right now. But my feedback thus far is that if this is the pace that we're going to go at, this is not it, and we gotta do something about it. Whether that's more content in each drop, spreading out the content, either one is fine by me, but we gotta pick one of those. Preferably both. Backpedaling a bit to the portal at large, my feedback is I want to like it. I really do. I think the concept is amazing, and that the idea of having a central hub where all the activities hang out in sort of a main menu is fantastic. The problem is, it's only so fun for so long, mainly because it only serves to facilitate the power grind, but we're getting ahead of ourselves in the script here. The main problem is that I feel like I have no incentive to play anything other than what I can complete the most efficiently. When activities have unique rewards, you encourage people to try things they might not otherwise. You're basically saying, hey, here's this fancy new gun, but you can only get it from this one activity, and that incentive has just been entirely lost. before I actually had a reason to care about the specific loot pool from a raid or a nightfall or a dungeon, and now I just don't care. I've barely got any incentive to play any raid or dungeon right now outside of just the love of the game. Now, granted, I am in it for the love of the game, and I'd do raids if they only gave halfway decent gear, but I'm not in the majority on that one. Outside of farming for a specific item from the Pinnacle Ops playlist or something like that, I don't have a reason to care about what most of the portal activities will give me. There's also no reason to run any kind of endgame activities, and because all the conquests can be overleveled, there's not even really an endgame to speak of because GMs functionally don't exist, but I've spoken my piece on that, and everything I said in that video still applies. Now, with Ash and Iron, there were some changes to the portal, namely that the power grind was eased or reduced, and while that is technically true, I think the lack of meaningful content and just general community apathy has only led to this grind feeling even more brutal. As of the time I'm writing this, I'm sitting at just under 450, and I don't really see myself pushing up too hard above that for a number of reasons. Not only do I have a job, believe it or not, I'm actually employed, I also need to split my time between playing the game and making content for it, since content takes longer than you would think. On top of that, the power grind is just not that fun to me, and I imagine this is one of the two major complaints that people are most likely to voice. So before we get to the other complaint, we need to talk about the power grind just not being fun. Pre-Edge of Fate, the power grind, at least what little left there was of it, was more complicated, but it was also much more rewarding. Raids and dungeons were by far the fastest way to earn pinnacle loot. Along with that pinnacle loot, having premier perks, meaning not only was the loot from it good, it progressed your power level as well. Aside from endgame now being conquests and 2 raids, I know technically the epic version of Desert Perpetual is the same raid, but, like, no, it's a different raid. The power grind just feels really samey right now. Fire Team Ops at least feels like it has some variety, but that mostly comes from the fact that it's drawing from older strikes and seasonal content. But that can really only get you so far. Pinnacle Ops is where it feels like they at least went a little bit crazy, since it mostly consists of exotic missions, which gives some inherent variety. But Solo Ops is just the same thing in a different flavor. It's always, kill these guys, move over here, stand in a circle, destroy this thing, and then fight a boss at the end. And it doesn't always go in that order, but it's pretty much always some combination of that. Unfortunately, there really just only is so much entertaining in the portal, and the power grind is just not fun because of it. The other main complaint about the power grind is that the game, as of right now, is the power grind, and only the power grind. Legacy raids and dungeons didn't get their loot pools updated, and we don't have any timeline for when or even if that will happen, which means the only source of tiered gear comes from 2 raids, and then everything else is in the portal. And as we've already gone over, the portal just facilitates the power grind, and that is about it. I have exactly 1 gun. 1 single piece of gear from a Legacy raid or dungeon that I actually want, and I have not played those raids nearly as much as some other people. And it's an exotic, so as soon as I get it, I have no reason to play the Legacy endgame stuff, which means the only source of relevant loot is the portal. The new exotic mission isn't out yet. I'm going to give it its own video when it does, but I imagine it will not alleviate much of this burden. So yeah, right now the state of the game can be described as pretty poor. Too long didn't read, there's not a whole lot to do, and what there is to do is not very fun. But what does the future look like? Well, our next chance to really turn things around is Renegades, which is the mid-year expansion. Normally, we wouldn't have this kind of content drop, but with the new calendar and no seasonal model, this is what we're getting, and I think we're going to have to wait and see if it'll pay off. Speaking of Renegades, I feel I kind of need to split my opinion regarding it, because unlike all of Twitter and Reddit, I actually have a nuanced take. I need to split the crossoverness from the thing, from the everything else of the thing. I'm gonna get to both of those parts, but just, like, put down your pitchforks and hear me out in full. In terms of the everything else of the thing, from what I've seen, it looks like it's going to be really fun. I've only watched the Vidoc since I wasn't able to attend the live streams. Again, I have a job, so if there was anything in there that wasn't in the Vidoc, I haven't seen it. But even with that, I think the new abilities look really fun, and the new activities look very novel and interesting. I think the ability to invade other players' lobbies and, like, snipe their bounties from them with a multitude of different tools, and then you have this crazy mind game between you and the people you're invading, and it all loops around, and you're in each other's heads, and it just seems rad as hell. The new faction subsets also seem really cool, especially the Sentient Vex, what with the Conductor arc happening, and the fact that the Vex have always operated as a true hive mind since, gosh, forever, I think. So, all of that is to say that, you know what? I'm actually pretty excited for Renegades, and that's not just because it happens to be in close proximity to the most important day of my life. Now we get to the controversial part. This is not just a Destiny expansion, it's a Star Wars Destiny expansion. Now, crossovers are a thing that Destiny has done. But as of right now, those crossovers have all been purely cosmetic, meaning if you don't like the thing that the game is crossing over with, well, you can just kind of ignore it. You don't like it, don't spend your money on it. However, this is a full expansion. You can't really just ignore it if you don't like Star Wars, because it's a part of the Destiny canon and the Destiny story, and there's a lot to lose if you ignore it. The risk that's being run here is that if it leans too hard into Star Wars, you risk losing all of the people that just don't care about Star Wars that much, or just don't want to have crossover stuff at all in Destiny. In terms of how I feel about it, I am somewhere in the middle. I don't think I can give you a definitive answer to that until it actually comes out in full. But right now, at least from what I've seen, I think it's fine. You know, it's acceptable. It really does seem to be more in vibes and a few things that are just, like, basically direct rips from Star Wars. I remember seeing a lightsaber sword and a blaster weapon that was, like, probably a hand cannon or a sidearm. But we're not gonna, like, intercept Darth Vader on his way to the Death Star or end up, like, meeting Jedi or something like that. That's not gonna happen. Some people are gonna be turned off from the expansion at all from the get-go because it's a crossover expansion. And I think that that's fair. But I would encourage people to just, you know, give it a chance at least. And frankly, that's how I'm feeling about the future just in general right now. I am begging on my knees to just have people give the game a chance. And just dare to have some level of optimism for what the future might hold. So many people right now are writing the game off as just dead and done before we've even hit that point. And look, I know community morale is low and apathy is higher than it's ever been. But right now, I've got some level of optimism. The future looks like it could be bright, but we've got to give it a chance. So to answer the all-important question of, is the game dead yet? No, it's not. Not by a long shot. At least, not yet. I'm not even going to entertain the possibility until both Renegades and Shadow and Order have launched in full, and if both of those things end up not landing, come back to me and we'll talk about that. Having said that, I can feel myself starting to feel the same sort of just general apathy towards Destiny that a lot of people are feeling right now. Funnily enough, my content workflow has been amazing because I don't really have the same drive to play the game that I did before, which gives me a lot more time to make videos. So overall, I'm feeling apathetic, but optimistic. If I'm being honest, this is one of the lowest points of the game. In terms of the it's so over, we're so back cycle, definitely not that latter thing. But it's a cycle for a reason. Look, I have seen what this game can be at its best, and let me tell you, there ain't anything else out there like it. I've dipped my toe in the water of a few other MMOs, and none of them were able to scratch that same itch that Destiny does for me. If I can take an aside here, I really don't want to shit on the game just for the sake of shitting on the game. Know that there are plenty of people out there who want to be doom and gloom regardless of what state the game is in, and will find any excuse to just say game bad and then still continue playing anyway. I don't want to be one of those people. Unfortunately, being honest about how I feel right now about the game requires me to be pretty negative because, yeah, it's not great right now. But hopefully the game will be better, and I'll actually be able to talk about what I like about it. Because I want to like Destiny. When the getting is good, this game is one of the best that I've ever played. And if I'm being honest, I kind of hope that this video doesn't blow up. Because if it does, it will just reaffirm to me that the only way to have content reach a wider audience will just be to constantly shit on the game. Or rage bait everyone with thumbnails while the actual video is talking about things that I like. Actually, I should try that sometime. That would be funny. But on a real note, I hate, despise, loathe being so fucking negative all the time. Especially about Destiny, and double so for my content. I don't get paid to make these. Okay? I'm in it for the love of the game. And if it wasn't Destiny, I would be making videos on something else. And I'm not saying that that's going to happen anytime soon, but God, is it really hard to talk so much shit in the process of something that's very enjoyable for me, so I really hope things turn around come December. Okay, I think that's everything in terms of 23 minutes of ramble. Jesus fuck. I apologize for being such a downer. I know I'm normally a bit more of a voice of positivity, but I at least wanted to make my thoughts known and give some feedback. Expect a video on the Low Man soon. Hopefully things get a little bit more fun and enjoyable to watch. I have a feeling I'm genuinely going to enjoy putting together some of these videos, and then after that, things are wide open. I might do some more vault cleaning. There's a build video there or two. Hey, maybe I'll do some not Destiny stuff. I don't know what that is yet. And maybe I'll actually use my second channel at some point. But, you know, it's there. Anyway, I will see you in the hopefully much brighter next one. Bye for now.